So the blood-brain barrier and brain degeneration. So how the brain actually works here, there's a barrier around the whole entire brain, which is called the blood-brain barrier. And why is that so important? Because we need to have a solid blood-brain barrier, because what's in, this is what we call the CNS, the central nervous system. What's in the central nervous system, or what's in the brain, we want to make sure that is staying in the brain. Now, in particular, the brain and the central nervous system, the CNS, central nervous system, produces a lot of hormones. So, or I should say not hormones, neurotransmitters. So these are just some of the neurotransmitters that the brain produces, but you can see if you don't have these neurotransmitters here, these are the problems that this can cause. So norepinephrine can cause anxiety, depression, dopamine can cause Parkinson's disease, depression, acetylcholine here can cause Huntington's disease, Alzheimer's, depression. So the point of this slide here is there's a barrier around the brain, and we want to make sure that that barrier is protected and it's not leaking, because once that barrier starts to leak, then what happens is things can start to get outside of the brain and go into your bloodstream. So we must have a good blood-brain barrier and a good blood-brain integrity. Now, this is a slide. I really like this slide. So what you're looking at right here, of course, this is the brain, and you see this is the artery, and then we're blowing this up. So you can see right here, this is going to be your blood right here. Okay, so that's the blood. And then right here, this right here, and guess what that is? That is your nervous system. That's your brain right here. Your brain sits right here. Your brain sits right in this column right here. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is what we call the blood-brain barrier is only one cell thick. So between the outside, the blood, and your nervous system, your brain, is one cell thick. So this is a very poor barrier. Now, let's look at this. Let's go over here and look at your skin. You see, this is going to be the blood vessels down in here. Now, look at how many layers you have to go through in order to get to your artery. So in order for you to actually cut your finger and your finger to bleed, you have to go through like 10,000 skin cells. This is like 10,000 cells thick. Now, when we talk about the blood right here, and then we talk about your brain, that is only one cell thick. So this blood-brain barrier that they call it is a very poor barrier. This is not a very good barrier whatsoever. It's not like your skin. Your skin literally has 10,000 skin cells that it needs to go through here in order to get in order for you to bleed, and your brain is only one cell thick. So this is a poor barrier. Now, what happens here, anytime someone comes into me on a functional level or a functional medicine patient, and they have any kind of brain issues, we always need to look at the digestive system, the gut, and this is why. Now, before we go into this, when it comes to your gut or your digestive system, your small intestine, when I see your gut, I'm referring to your small intestine, which is roughly 32 feet long. Now, this is normal bowel movements. You should be making a bowel movement every 2 to 3 times per day. You should have no gas, no bloating, no constipation, no diarrhea. You shouldn't have to take any antacids or any heartburn medications. That's normal, healthy digestive system. If you have any other than that, if you have constipation, diarrhea, maybe you alternate from constipation and diarrhea, maybe you have to take heartburn medication, maybe you have to take Tums, maybe you get bloated after you eat. All these are signs that your digestive system is not working correctly. Now, what the medical research shows, if you have a bad digestive system, you also have a bad blood-brain barrier. So let's get to this. So this right here, what you're looking at is this is your gut health, okay? And this is going to be your small, I'm just going to abbreviate, this is your small intestine right here. So this is the food. So you just ate food, right? So your food is traveling in here, and these are your individual cells. So you can see here, these are the cells right here. Now what happens is the foods in here, your gut here is only one cell thick. Can you see that? And here's your nervous system. This is they call it your enteric nervous system. That just means that your nervous system in your digestive system is literally only one cell thick. Now what happens here is you can see these cells here, we call these like tight junctions. What happens when you start to have a digestive problem is these tight junctions start to break away. They become leaky, what we call leaky gut, okay? This is a leaky gut problem. Now what happens is when you eat food, let's say you eat wheat, and there's a big protein there, which is called gluten. This protein can get into your bloodstream and start causing inflammation. So this is your nervous system, and your bloodstream is sitting right here. Now this can cause systemic chronic inflammation. So if you have any gas, bloating, diarrhea, that tells you that this right here, this process is happening in your body right now. Let me erase this here. So this is why the integrity of the nervous system is so critical, is because it's literally only one cell thick. Now let's take this to your brain. Now way back when the egg and the sperm met, the GI system, the gut, and the brain come from the same tissue, the blood-brain barrier. Now you can see right here, this is only one cell thick as well. And then what happens is when you have a leaky blood-brain barrier, which is happening right here, you can see how these are starting to break down. When these are starting to break down, if you have inflammation in your blood, this inflammation is going to get right into your brain and start causing your brain to be inflamed. This is going to increase your inflammation. So the gut health and your blood-brain barrier are intimately connected. If you have any GI problems, it means you're chronically inflamed. If you're chronically inflamed, that tells you that your whole brain is inflamed. Now when God designed this, he didn't create any pain fibers in our brain. So when your brain starts to malfunction, you start to get brain fog, brain fatigue. Maybe you start to get memory problems. Maybe you start to get shaking problems. Your brain doesn't have any pain receptors to say, ow, it just doesn't function well. Maybe you can't remember, or maybe when you read something, you can't remember what you read, and you have to read it over and over and over. So the number one goal is when we talk about brain conditions and restoring your brain is we have to look at your gut. We have to make sure your gut is healthy, because if it's not healthy, this causes these food particles to break into your blood here. This is your blood and your nervous system, and that causes chronic inflammation. If you're chronically inflamed, that chronic inflammation now is going up to your brain and causing your brain to be on fire. So if you have a leaky gut here, you automatically have a leaky brain. That's just what the research is showing. If you have a leaky gut, you automatically have a leaky brain. So if this is happening in your body, this is automatically happening in your body. The only way to handle this is in my office through a functional medicine program. So I hope you found value in this. And if you have any questions, you can certainly email me and get a hold of me. Take care.